Hi there, this is Thalia the dietitian. Today I'm going to be answering one of perhaps the most common questions that I get from parents, and it's about food throwing and what to do about it, because sometimes children throw food and that is very difficult for the parent. So I'm going to go through a few different tips and explanations to kind of put things into perspective for you, and then give you like a little bit of a framework of what you can do to help manage this and lessen and reduce it, because that's what every parent really wants, is to be able to sit and have a nice meal at the table together. Alrighty, so first thing I want to note here is this is not uncommon with babies. In fact, when babies are kind of done with eating, or especially when they're very little, like 6 months, they're probably not actually swallowing very much. It takes a lot of time and practice to actually get the food from the front to the back of the mouth and swallow it. That takes a lot of practice. So if the baby is just kind of sitting at the table and playing with it, that's totally normal. And one of the ways that they tell you that they're done is by starting to drop food. So look for those cues and try to identify them, and even verbalize with your child, even though they probably won't, 6 months old, they won't be able to really tell you that they're done, but that's one of the ways that they show you that they're done. The next thing that I do recommend is verbalizing what it is that you want them to do. So rather than saying something like a lot of parents would say is don't do that, or don't throw it on the floor, or don't throw it on the floor, please. Tell them what the behavior is that you would like. So please keep your food on your plate or on your placemat. And I'm gesturing over here because this is where my little baby sits. So I would say that to her and tell her what I would want her to do. Make it positive rather than a negative. When someone says don't do something, the last part of what you hear is the something that you don't want them to do. Don't throw food on the floor. So tell them what you do want them to do. I also do have my computer here with some notes so that I don't forget anything. The next thing that I would recommend, if you see them going to throw food or drop on the floor again, would be to calmly help them bring their hand back to the table and remind them verbally again, please keep your food on the plate or on the table. By doing this really calmly, you're preventing from making it an exciting thing. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but if someone was to lunge at you to stop you from doing something, it'd be like a bit of an affront, like, oh, what happened? So by doing it calmly, the child is less likely to repeat that behavior because it got a rise out of you. If you do it calmly, you'll just do this and please bring it back to the table, and it's not a thing. It's not something that was exciting that made you do something. So remembering to stay as calm as possible. And if the food does get dropped on the floor, it's not the end of the world. All right, the next thing I would recommend here is, so as children get older, first of all, even babies do understand a lot of what we're saying. Even though they don't verbalize back to us, they might not understand every word that we're saying, but we need to give them some credit. Babies are very smart and they do have a good understanding of what we are saying to them. So the way we talk to them is really important. To build trust and that respectful relationship, we should talk to them like we would talk to another adult. So please bring your food back to the table rather than yelling it at them or angry at them. They don't know that it's something that would make you angry. So coming from a place of respect. Giving them a place that is a designated place on their placemat or tray, maybe it's a bowl or something, that you tell them that is their designated bowl to put the things that they don't want. So let's say they're flirting with throwing over a piece of steamed carrot. You could give them their little bowl, put it at their place and say, hey, if you don't want that, please put it in your bowl. So you're giving them a clear instruction and it's positive. Put it in your bowl if you don't want it. And it's not angry, and you've given them somewhere to put it. That's a nice strategy. They can take it off their plate. It's not threatening to them. And the fact that they actually do put it in their bowl is a food exposure. So that's really great. The next thing that you kind of want to do is, again, to verbalize what you want and tell them when they do that, thank you so much for doing it. So giving them the positive reinforcement there as well, like, oh, thanks for putting that in your bowl. The next thing that I'm going to tell you, and it may sound ridiculous, but a lot of parents underestimate just how important this is, and that is eating together. You sitting and eating with your child, preferably eating the same thing, although I know that's not always possible, and that's okay, totally okay. Your food may look a bit different. Even if you are eating the same food, it might be prepared a little bit differently. You might be having something crunchy, they might be having something soft. It might be whatever it is, a deconstructed taco. That's okay. But when the mere fact that you're sitting and eating together is another way of showing them what you want their behavior to be. You're not throwing your food. You're not dropping it on the floor. So you're modeling the behavior that you want them to have. And that is very, very powerful. In fact, there's a lot of research that's found that parents who eat with their children, like in the family meal situation, children have more variety of foods that they eat. They eat more fruits and vegetables. They have a better overall diet quality. So there's an awful lot of benefit to eating together. And one of them is that modeling behavior of what you do want them to have and exhibit the behaviors that you want them to have. So not throwing your own food, obviously, goes without saying. And the last thing for children who are probably in the 12 to 14 month range, I wouldn't be doing this for a baby younger than that, because like I said in the beginning, sometimes dropping the food is just part of their play and experimenting, and it's not something that you should be giving them a consequence for. But around the age of 12 to 14 months is when they start to assert a bit more independence and start to test the boundaries more. So you need to have some boundaries in place right from the start and some natural consequences. And so I like to call this the 1, 2, 3. The one is that if they drop something on the floor, you remind them, please keep your food on your placemat, or please put the food that you don't want in this bowl. And it's very calm and gentle, and you've told them your expectation. If it happens again, this is number 2, if it gets dropped or something gets dropped again, in a very simple way, what you want to convey to your child is, if you do that again, I'm going to put your meal away and I'm going to wash you up. This is not something that you want to deliver in an angry, threatening, or growly voice. I have been in very uncomfortable situations where parents are not very... don't talk very respectfully to their child. They might say that as if you do that again, I'm going to wash you up, or your meal's going to be over. And again, I'm looking here because that's where my baby sits. But that's not going to build that trusting, respectful relationship we want. The mere fact is, that's the natural consequence, that if you throw the food again, I'm going to wash you up and put your food away because you're telling me that you're done eating. So that's the natural consequence there. And then the number 3 is, if they do drop that food again after that warning, that you do calmly follow through, wash them up, put their food away. They might be crying and having a tantrum at this point, but being firm with your boundary and following through with what you said was going to happen as the natural consequence. And that's the wash up and the food being put away. Calmly endure the meltdown that happens. I've had to do this a few times with my own kids, and it's not a nice, pleasant thing to do, and it might sound really harsh, but remember that as long as it comes from a place of love, caring, and compassion, that you're still doing things gently with them. You're not physically angry with them. You are just washing them up in the same way you normally would. You can give them a hug. You can say, oh, I know that seems like that was very upsetting for you. Don't make excuses. Don't rehash what happened. They want to move on as much as you do. Just let them tell you how they feel about it, and they're going to tell you that by crying, and that's okay. As much as the more you can be calm and understand that in your mind you're doing the right thing and you're being confident, you're going to be able to minimize that behavior in the future, because you've been able to follow through and show the child, when you do that, there is a natural consequence to doing that, and they will learn. And one of the questions that I always get about this is, what if they tell me that they're hungry 20 minutes later? That is really, I would say, a case-by-case situation. So for example, let's say your child had eaten most of their dinner, or had eaten a fairly good amount of their dinner, and then this happened. I would say that they were probably close to being done, and that they won't need to eat again afterwards. If it's a younger child and it's the first time that you're doing it, or the second time, I wouldn't be doing this third and fourth time. But for the first and second time, maybe after half an hour, if they're seeming like they're hungry, give them their same plate of food again and allow them to try again. But make sure you tell them after that second time that you're doing this, the next time to eat is at whatever your next meal or snack time is, because you don't want to fall into this pattern of child throws their food, you put it away, child asks for more food and you give them more food. That's a pattern that you don't want to get stuck into, because children are very smart. They will learn that the boundary means I get another chance in half an hour or in 20 minutes. And in one of my earlier videos, we talked about mealtime roles, and you're the parent and you control the schedule and the timing of meals. So it's okay to be a little bit flexible in the beginning so that they can learn, and so it's not so harsh. The goal is not to make our children starve or go hungry. So I definitely don't recommend that. Being gentle in this approach, but also being firm that after it's happened once or twice, your child needs to get the message that that is the rule and that is the natural consequence, and that mum and dad follow through with that. So I really hope you found that video helpful and some useful tips and strategies there for you. And if you did find it helpful, please subscribe to my channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss a future video. I'll have lots more question and answer videos coming up. And drop me a comment below if you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. This is Thalia. See you in another video. It's really important to get your information about feeding from somebody who knows what they're talking about. I am a dietitian and I'm here to help you.